Well, let me first appreciate the opportunity to come and share further details about the program. So in a nutshell, Bongi and Collin are the founders of this particular program or foundation. It started a number of years ago. And how it basically came about is that one of the kids that was going to school with his son or their son would basically have some certain needs, etc. So it was observed over a period of time. And they took it upon themselves to basically contribute to that particular family who basically, I mean, the child is basically headed by a partially blind old man. And they basically provided that role of parental guidance, etc. And getting into the needs of attending to some of the basic requirements such as food as well as clothing. But then at a period of time, a number of friends that were basically close to them picked up this particular need and they started contributing in their personal capacity. And over the period they thought, you know what, let's just basically formalize the exercise, because there's more and more people that are basically identifying other kids who have needs, and there are those who are also identifying opportunity to basically give into the program. So the first concert was about a number of years ago, which was in Mamelodi. That was the launch program, and followed by the one last year at Tembisa, which is in Ekurhuleni. It looks like Ekurhuleni is lucky because they're having another one again in the Vosloorus area. So that's basically how the program started, and this is more like a quarterly basis type of a program. And the idea is to basically have more of this, because you can't just have enough giving. Giving is basically quite important, and if you look at our different social ills within communities, it's quite practical for us to contribute in that manner.
You know, David, we were just talking about another campaign raising, school shoes, and this is about now school uniforms. But let me ask you the same question I asked them. How rife is this problem where children don't have even uniforms to get to schools, particularly in those areas that you've mentioned, your townships, your rural areas?
It's quite very sad if you were to basically take a walk in those particular environments. I mean, some of the things that are leading to this, as you know, there's currently issues around social grants and unemployment, etc. So the truth of the matter is there are a whole lot of challenges in these areas, and you will only basically be in a position to pick up if you're in the area. Or if you basically just take a bit of time to observe some of these kids that are going to school in the mornings, etc. And I mean, if parents could basically just take a bit of extra 5 minutes to just have a look at such in their communities, you basically pick up there's just more and more. And if you were to listen to the stories, you pick up more and more kids go home hungry and they basically sleep hungry, etc. That's why we have the feeding schemes in the schools, which is basically headed by the Department of Education, etc. And no fee paying schools, etc. So it's quite broad.
David, let's talk about the concert now. You're taking it to Vosloorus. Why particularly Vosloorus? And also maybe talk to us about how you identify your beneficiaries in the process.
The beauty about this is that at a given point, Social Department, Department of Social Department, Gauteng came to the party, and how they basically did was they have a list of schools within different communities as the Social Department development. What happens is that they have an idea of which are the hardest hit areas in each section within the Gauteng province, and they basically closely work together with Department of Education, who will basically nominate certain schools to say in this particular areas, please focus on this school. So it's basically a collaboration between the Department of Social Development together with the $IBeLive Foundation, who will basically just do the collection and hand over to Department of Social Development, who will then facilitate an engagement with the stakeholders, which is Department of Education, to now basically go about identifying points of distributions, etc., in the affected areas within the province.
David, how has this campaign been received?
It's been received so well. I mean, people are calling on a daily basis. People are asking for banking details. People are asking to basically personally come to the event. And how it basically happens is that it's a concert where people would not necessarily pay with cash.
I was about to ask you, please tell us what the entry is to this particular concert.
Perfect,
a very interesting concert.
So the entry is you bring a school uniform item, and that basically grants you entry into the concert.
When you say school uniform item, what
it
do you
could
mean,
be it could be shoes, it could be shirts, it could be jerseys, it could be a tie, it could be a pair of socks, etc. So what we've seen with a number of contributors into this is that people will bring a load of shirts. I mean, it's not just basically bringing one item. People will bring 100 pairs of shoes, different sizes, etc. So it's quite amazing. It's just been received so well by the communities in the different areas. And the idea is at some point, let's rather maybe mobilize and have this nationally, because basically, I mean, in each and every province, you will basically pick up those hardest hit areas.
Now, David, you mentioned that the Social Development Department has come on board. What is the Education Department saying? Are you in any talks to try and form a coalition?
Definitely,
of some sort?
definitely. There are talks underway. In actual fact, we're planning a not necessarily a tripartite type of a launch in the coming year, because there's a number of other organizations outside that want to. There's COCTA as well, who's basically shown interest as well, because if you pick up a number, like we've just recently had the floods where certain communities and areas are affected, and if all the clothing items and everything is basically washed away by the floods, well, it basically means kids are automatically affected. So COCTA would basically champion the discussions and basically seeing to it that contributions are made available in form of food, shelter, and many other things. There's a multiple number of examples we can basically get into, but there are a number of departments that are basically correlating together, stakeholders coming to the party to basically contribute as much as we can to our own communities. Yes.
Awesome news indeed. Now, where and how are you going to distribute this year's school uniforms?
So this year would basically not be practical because schools have already are almost closing. It will basically be early in the year. There are a number of schools identified in the Ekurhuleni area. There are schools identified in Mohale City as well as Sidibeng. Because last year we basically practicalized it in the Tshwane area. So those are basically schools that will basically be receiving the items, and those will basically be in a form of going to the different particular schools that are nominated by Department of Education.
Wow.
And we basically do the distributions, etc.
What a nice way to begin the year. They're going to have fresh school uniforms and they have food. I think that boosts their confidence in the long run as well.
Definitely.
Look, David, maybe once again, give us those contact details in case sponsors want to get in touch, in case, some people want to come and help them in their own communities that you might not have reached.
Okay, perfect. So we have a Facebook launch. A Facebook page that is available is IBeLive Foundation. IBeLive is basically spelled IBELIVE Foundation. There's an email address. It's info@ibelive.org.za, info.ibelive.org.za, and there's a contact number of my colleague Sekhodi, who's on 082 403 9305.
Where else? Is there a website where they can get more details?
Yeah, the website is basically currently under the IBeLive Foundation. It's IBeLive, www.ibelive.org.za.
All right, David.
So more details are available there.
All right, so what do you want to tell people out there? Can people approach you in case they want you to actually come and assist their schools, or the Social Development Department has to identify them? Let's clarify that very quickly.
No. At any given time, people can contact us to basically...
Directly.
They can contact us directly. But another thing that I would probably maybe make it as a call to the nation is it doesn't have to basically start with us. So your next door neighbor would basically have needs. Start there. So if you're able to, because basically what we're doing, we're just basically currently focusing on Gauteng. So if you're in Limpopo and you want to contribute, start next door. Yeah, start next door. 5 houses away from you, there's a kid that is in need. Help, and basically let's just make South Africa more beautiful.
David, thank you so much for your time here and this great initiative. You came with great news this morning. That is Mr. David Rampekwa, one of the board members of the IBeLive Foundation, and he is talking to us about the third school uniform campaign benefit concert taking place in December the 3rd in the Vosloorus Baptist Worship Center. Is there a charge fee?
No.
Is it free?
No,
anybody can come?
Anybody can come. It's not free. We would really appreciate you to bring along a student
supply.
Yes. Supply. Please bring along. But if you, there are busy people. We do have business people who are very, very busy. If you happen not to make a turn at one of the stores to basically buy the items, you're more than welcome to bring the cash. We will then convert it into the items required.
David, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take a quick ad break. More news after that.